Hey everyone, good afternoon. It is fairly romantic that on a Sunday evening we sort of congregate here instead of watching a cricket match, staying outside or grabbing a dosa. In between this, my name is Sai. I am a bit of an accidental entrepreneur, right? And this reminds me of the journey which I got started when the last time I stepped into college, which was to plead with my profs in order to ensure that they sign off on the reports before I graduate from my last year, saying, please, the format looks fine. At least read the content, right? So I'm glad that I'm stepping in on a slightly different context here, but the nature remains the same. I continue to be underprepared, right? So we're going to wing this, so wing it with me, but I'd love to walk you through the journey of what goes from college to entrepreneurship and from entrepreneurship to technology, and more importantly, what are the things that are exciting in technology? A bit of context, I've previously built virtual and augmented reality companies that have exited through to companies like Flipkart, as well as Polygon, which is a blockchain startup in its own right. In between this, over the last 8 odd years, I have devoted most of my time to strapping a piece of hardware onto your face called VR glasses. Right? You've seen this in forms and shapes plenty. Right? So today we're going to talk about what's exciting about college entrepreneurship as we get started. And the second part is what are the areas in the metaverse that we want to sort of spend a little bit more time into and get a sense of what the future would look like 3, 5, and 10 years from now. So the first part of this is whenever you're free, right, pick up your phones and take a look at the number of hours that you spend on your phones on a daily basis. You've got this digital well-being or screen time, as we call it as, right? How many of you here spend more than 5 hours a day on your phones? More than 8 hours a day on your phones? That's still a number, that's a good number. 10? Anyone going there? Okay, that's cause for concern, man. But we'll all pretend like it's a learning app that we're using on our phone during that point, right? Here's an interesting part. Every generation of people who have grown up before you guys have never had this. The devices in your pocket are far more important than the walk in Cubbon Park or just spending time outside, right? When was the last time you spent 5 hours with someone outside in a friend circle? Very rarely, right? When was the last time you were cooped into an auditorium for 5+ hours? This. Which is why I said it was fairly romantic. We did this on a Sunday evening, right? So we are for the first time hitting a point where that life inside your phones are more important than usually this life. And that in itself is both scary, is both is fun and exciting in every right possible, because none of the others before you, the boomers, the old ones, don't know what this is, right? This is a whole new chartered territory, and this is what we call as the metaverse. What do I mean by this? The metaverse can be understood as two things, right? The first one is its technology. I have a pair of virtual or augmented reality glasses. I throw that on my face, and this is going to then make me spend all the time in the world right here. We'll get to that, right? That's the more obvious definition that typically exists in. The second is whether you have the glasses or not, you're kind of living this life already, right? You're kind of living this life where you're sucked into a rectangle where that identity defines you as much as this identity does. Your ID card does not matter as much as your Instagram account, correct? Okay, the prof won't really notice too much, but I'm sure some of you guys will at least agree through it here, right? So given that your digital identity becomes really important over the next sort of spans of time, the first thing that we've got to realize is computing, content, and commerce are all going to change over the next 5 years. What do I mean by this? Let's start with computing, right? How many of you here have used one of those old desktops or a dial-up internet connection? Wow, that's like one hand that goes up in the room, right? A dial-up internet connection was back in the day when you could not like use your telephone or your landline as well as your desktop, right? So you then had to ask your granddad to not speak on the phone, pause, which I did, got yelled at, and then you connect to the internet at 54 kilobytes on a lucky day, right? So this is where we started not too long ago, right? 15 years ago, 18, 19 years ago, tops. Now from there, we've come a long way. Now let's rewind a little, right? Computing has always changed in its format. We've gone from mainframes or even punch cards to mainframes, mainframes to desktops, desktops to laptops, laptops to smartphones. This arc of computing will continue to happen. It's not like that rectangle in your pocket is the ultimate format, right? People are going to try building what's after the smartphone. So what is after the smartphone is going to be two types: spatial computing and ambient computing, right? What is ambient computing? Very simple, right? Like when each one of us yells "Okay Google" in order to set a timer or an alarm, that's ambient computing. It's a device that's listening, is aware of that we exist there, and you're able to fire a bunch of commands. Most of us ask a Spotify playlist or a timer at this point of time, right? That's what speakers are allowing us to do. On the other side, you're getting onto spatial computing, which is devices that when you wear allow you to experience a world in front of you in 3 dimensions. How many of you have tried a virtual reality pair of glasses here? It could be anything: a Google Cardboard, an Oculus, right? A few of you have given this a shot, right? Now, while most of us might not own one today, at least we've had the chance to experience one today. Think of internet browsing centers back in the day, right? That's where virtual reality today is. You don't probably own the device, but you wish to be part of the ecosystem and see where that goes to. Now, from there, you're going to go to a point where the most expensive devices just 3 years ago cost you $2,000 and was not too affordable, to a point where things cost you now $299. And it is at a point of time where it's selling more than Xboxes and PlayStations at this point, right? So we're at a point where this shift is already happening through. So that's the computing layer. The way that you will close this decade will most certainly not be through a smartphone, but most likely be through a wearable device. Cool, fine, computers change. So what changes with a computer? The whole damn internet, right? The very ability for you to access information will change if the device you're accessing that information on changes, right? The mobile internet was very different from the desktop internet, if you guys remember, right? And mobile applications were completely different from your ones that you had on your laptop as you go forward with. MATLAB and Uber have nothing to do with each other. And Uber is an app that's built specifically because you had data connectivity, cheap data, and a phone in your pocket. There are entirely new billion-dollar companies and opportunities that started because the mobile phone existed. TikTok started, for all you know, right? There are whole other businesses that come through because the computer changes. And that leads to content. Content is going to change. But content won't change on a vertical video. Content won't change on nice illustrations which are present on a long format. Content changes at an internet level, right? This is for the first time you go from staring at the internet in rectangles. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a bunch of rectangles around us that we look at information with, right? There's no fun with rectangles. Rectangles are not the way we see the world. I see you guys in 3 dimensions. You see me as slightly boring more 3 dimensions. But between this, we perceive the world in a certain way. And that is how the internet will go on to. You're no longer going to surf the internet. You're going to be a part of it, right? An embodiment, literally being plonked in through the next cricket match that is being telecasted, the next concert that's going out there, or probably looking at a video of how Bangalore was before Silk Board came to be and the traffic sort of ruined everything, right? The whole point is to embody and viscerally experience information. This is the metaverse. The ability for you to completely reinvent the internet, to be 3D, to put you inside an experience, and to let you then have the opportunity to wear a wearable device and do what you want. That's why people are excited about it, right? Do we have all the working parts ready for doing something like that right now as we speak today? Maybe not. But the reason why innovation continues to happen in these sort of areas is not because of what exists today, but how fast are we getting through to a better tomorrow, right? And you need to bet on industries and areas and spaces where things are exciting, things are broken, things are raw, but holy smokes, this is moving at a certain pace that is a lot of fun. That's what I did when I was in college, right? Quick recap, I've tried building a bunch of startups, plenty of which I'm not going to talk about, a couple which I can talk about as I started through with my journey in college, right? My life used to revolve around 3 things. The canteen, how do I bunk my classes, and the samosas that were kind of average. So in between this, what you do realize is 4 years fly, right? 4 years absolutely fly by, even when you're in campus, let alone online classes. Now, given that 4 years fly by, there is very little in between your tests, your semesters, and your grades that you're even having the chance to do. I'd ask you guys to take a moment, pause, and just look at what's happening around you. Things in the technology spectrum are changing in ways that you never have before. This is usually called the ground floor of innovation. Ground floor opportunities are very, very, very rare, right? And what do I mean by this? The last time we had chaos at the ground floor was when the internet was being born. Rewind, it's 1994. Every company wants to throw itself online. There is speculative bubbles everywhere, right? This is the point where things make no sense. There's a bunch of people on print magazines writing away the internet saying the information superhighway is not going to last it. There are a bunch who are saying this is going to be the next big thing. It's a very polarizing industry. Nobody knows how the world's going to go forward. That's chaotic, but that's exactly the time when you build something, right? You fast forward now and see where the internet is. That's a huge difference. These types of opportunities are not just rare to come by, but almost generational in their own right. Since then, if you notice, there's been only one other slightly ground floor level opportunity, which was when the iPhone dropped. The opportunity for you to build mobile applications was just an absolute white hot space back then. You guys, as you're getting out of college, have for the first time not just a ground floor opportunity, but the opportunity to be part of a completely new version of the internet that is going to come through from here. You guys are worried about digital signal processing, right? So priorities, right? So let's rewind that back a little. Effectively, this is not going to last too long, right? The next big billion-dollar companies will be built. The next Googles out there, the next Facebooks out there. These opportunities are about moving fast, learning as much as you can, and building things, right? You're never going to get it right in your first attempt, right? When was the last time you got something right the first time when you tried it? You shouldn't. That's the whole point. You're supposed to be bad at it before you get better, right? So that's really what building a startup's about. It's not about you being the smartest. It's not about you being the most experienced. It's not about you being a programmer. You don't need to be a developer to start a company. I wasn't one. I was in telecommunication engineering because my dad thought it's a good idea. Wasn't. Okay, so in between this, build. The very act of building a venture will teach you more than anything that you can by me, by anybody else here, or the four walls here, right? Get started, give this a shot, because right now is a point of time where things are so chaotic and so exciting, and the amount of opportunity that is in front of you to build the most obvious ventures out there is high. I started with that. I built one in the education space that was acquired. I then went on to try something in the hyperlocal delivery space, graduate through from Stanford, get back to India, built an augmented and virtual reality startup, and nobody told me that the metaverse was going to work, to a point where now everyone's like, maybe there was something there, right? So you are always going to either be too early, too stupid, or just too scared. It's okay to be the first two, right? It's perfectly fine in order to give something a wide shot and then set yourself up for non-linear success from there. Don't be too scared in between this, because in all honesty, what got me started during my days at college was I had nothing to lose. What's the worst that can happen? My parents will be called because I'm bunking classes. Manageable, right? But do I get to live with the regret that I didn't build anything? Fast forward, masters, I'm out there, probably in Atlanta or in San Francisco. I'm 32 years old. I've never really given myself a chance to try anything at all. There's one regret you can do with, one you can do without, right? Choose your regrets. Minimize to the part where you have the chance to give yourself the opportunity to build, right? And this is what brings me to the metaverse again. All of the opportunity that I just mentioned can be boiled down to 3 odd spaces in technology that remain the best places for someone who is in their early 20s to get started. The blockchain, what you do with the blockchain, and where you do it, right? The blockchain broadly talks about concepts like Web3, where decentralization is like really useful, but nobody really knows how this is going to go forward. You ask 3 people what their definition of Web3 is, nobody can agree on the same, right? That's how early we are. The second is, what do you do with something on chain? The example could be NFTs, right? I've just spent so much of time there that I do believe that there is so much potential and opportunity there. Again, chaotic. Right? We don't know exactly how this device is going to go. We don't know exactly how the internet was going to go. These are the times when you try, you experiment, and you build things forward with. And the third is where you do all of this at, right? That is a 3D version of the internet where you're going to spend a ton of time either in virtual reality or in augmented reality, and sort of then see how this moves forward from there. Now, it's fun and games in order to talk about a conference like this that could have happened in VR, and I could have been an avatar bobbling around telling you something. That may or may not be the future, right? Don't just take the default for granted. Right? You have the opportunity to now see how events can move, how education can move, how entertainment can go forward with, and any other industry that largely exists in has a potential or a possibility to be thought through from ground up. And that's really what makes the metaverse exciting, not just for us, but for massive companies like Meta, Google, Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite. I can go on with the list here, right? So that the very reason why everybody out there is spending the billions that they are in order to build a world like this while none of us have glasses yet is not because of what exists today, but what would exist 3 to 4 years from now. Right? And the best time to climb Mount Everest is not when everyone's finished it and it's a commercialized hot gunk place where it's littered with trash. The best time to climb Mount Everest is when very, very few people are talking about it. It's serene, it's beautiful, and it's still not polluted by everybody operating in that space, right? That's exactly the point here. If you are going to allow for everybody else to climb the trail and then look back and tell you this is a good opportunity, where's the fun in that? If you are perhaps going to give this a shot, pause, look at things around you. College is great. College teaches you a bunch of things that makes you resilient, that allows you to take a punch in the face, that allows you to teach and learn new concepts, and a peer group that is to die for. You can probably find your co-founder here and you guys can rodeo something through over the next 10 years, who knows, right? But give yourself the very chance to do that, right? At the end of the day, life's not really about the number of swings of the bat we take. Life's really about the fact that we turned up to the pitch in the first point and allowed ourselves to swing our bats. Because only if you do are you going to realize whether something's a home run or not. So don't worry about the home run right now. Turn up to the pitch, because right now the things around you are super, super exciting. And that's really what brought my journey through thus far in. I continue to be a novice. I continue to have the same amount of curiosity and excitement which I had when I was a college guy. Luckily, my parents don't need to be called in between all of this, right? That is it. So the difference is that keep building, keep having fun while you're building, because if you're not, nothing is worth it. And in between this, build in a space that is exciting. And as that space is exciting, learn to leverage the opportunity that you have right now, because that's a plenty. Can't wait to see what you guys do over the next 3 to 4 years. All the best, guys. Cheers.